If you've read The Chamber of Secrets, then odds are there were times during the movie that you wished certain parts of the book were present. Because as we know, the film made a lot of cuts to the original story. Well, you might have gotten your wish without even realizing it, because many Harry Potter fans don't know that there are extended editions of the films, specifically the Philosopher's Stone and the Chamber of Secrets. Now, I've already made a video covering every extended edition scene in the first movie, so be sure to check that out when you're done watching this video. But as for today, we'll be looking into Harry's second year at Hogwarts, and I'll not only be revealing every extended moment that you've probably never seen before, but I'll also be comparing them to the books to see if this additional footage brought the original pages of the story to life or just made up something entirely new. My name is Gibby, and welcome to Movies vs. Manuscripts, Harry Potter Edition. Let's waste no time and jump right into the first scene we're covering, because we've got 19 extra scenes to get through today. Our first extended edition scene, of course, brings us to the start of the movie, with Harry still at the Dursleys. For every scene we cover today, I'm going to briefly recap what happens before jumping into the analysis. The original movie only shows Dobby and Harry running downstairs and arguing as Vernon tells a bad plumbing joke, and then they all see the floating pudding, which lands on Mrs. Mason. The extended scene doesn't do anything to change this moment, but rather just adds on a little over a minute of extra conversation. Vernon tells his joke, then when it falls flat, Petunia tries to make small talk with the Masons by asking Mr. Mason about golfing and Mrs. Mason about her clothing. As with most of the scenes we'll be covering today, I believe it got cut mainly due to bad acting on the Masons' part. But how does it compare to the book version? Does this extra minute provide context directly from the book? Well, not really. There are still quite some differences. First, Vernon's plumbing joke is front and center in the extended version, not just happening in the background. And in the book, Vernon actually encourages Mr. Mason to tell his quote-unquote American plumber story. So it's not even Vernon's joke. Second, they're actually all sat in the dining room, not the living room, and the pudding drop happens not on Mrs. Mason, but in the kitchen, which is entirely separated. In fact, the Dursleys and their guests only hear the pudding drop onto the kitchen floor, and Vernon and Petunia run into the kitchen to see Harry covered head to toe in dessert. The pudding never falls on Mrs. Mason, but something else does, which brings us to the third change, as Mrs. Mason is freaked out not by the dessert, but by the owl that swoops in after. That's right, the extended scene still doesn't include the fact that in the book, a letter from the Ministry arrived stating that they detected magic being used in the household, and Mrs. Mason just so happens to have a phobia of birds, causing her to run out of the house screaming. So all in all, this extended scene is quite unnecessary, as it just elongates the footage without actually adding anything from the book. Now moving on to extended scenes number 2 and 3, which go together, we've got the longest ones of the bunch, coming in at over 3.5 minutes. This shows Harry and Borgin and Burkes hiding as Lucius and Draco Malfoy walk in to do some dark business. Lucius is trying to pawn off some dark magical items that he doesn't want the Ministry of Magic finding at his home, and Harry hides in an ancient sarcophagus just before they walk in. Then extended scene number 3 shows Harry trying to leave, but getting stopped by the store owner, Mr. Borgin, who just dealt with the Malfoys. He reluctantly lets Harry go after being really creepy. This long extended scene is quite opposite from the first one we just covered, because it actually does offer quite a bit of good context from the book. In the original version of the movie, I was disappointed that we never got to see Lucius Malfoy in Knockturn Alley, because it helps set up his character so well, and immediately lets Harry know who this person really is. Sadly, this extended scene still falls short in two crucial ways. First, in the book, Draco wants a magical artifact named the Hand of Glory. Mr. Borgin, wanting to make a sale, immediately starts pitching it to him, saying that the hand was a candle holder which only provides light to the person holding it, and that it is the best friend of thieves and plunderers. Lucius immediately says no, and that his son will be more than a mere burglar. The second key thing from the book that still didn't make the cut in this extended version is the fact that Harry doesn't hide in a sarcophagus, but a vanishing cabinet. But why does this matter? It's only a cabinet and a shriveled up hand, right? Wrong. The Vanishing Cabinet is the same one that has a sister in Hogwarts and is used by Draco in the Half-Blood Prince. And the hand is also used by Draco in the same book to help sneak through Hogwarts. My guess is that these two items didn't get included in this film because when this film was being recorded, the Half-Blood Prince book wasn't even written yet. Next, at extended scene number 4, we come to the boys flying Mr. Weasley's car over London. This really isn't that significant, as it's just a few extra seconds of footage of them flying over the city and nearly running into a clock tower. The real missed opportunity here is that they still don't show them taking off. That is written about in the book, and if you're going to spend 30 seconds of screen time on something, I'd rather it be them taking off from the street than just some screaming and flying, because we get a lot more of that later on. Next, at extended scene number 5, we're back to more important details from the book, as this extra footage shows Harry picking up a Kwikspell letter off the ground and giving it to Filch, who seemed to have dropped it. We don't really learn anything else about this in the movie, but if you know the book, then this short moment makes sense, and is a nod to a very key part of the plot. You see, Filch is the first to be attacked by way of Mrs. Norris getting petrified, and in the movie, we don't really learn why. Well, in the book, Harry learns something very important about Filch, and that is that he's a squib, a person born into a magical family who lacks the ability to do magic themselves. This is just as bad as a muggle-born in the eyes of the heir of Slytherin, and therefore, Filch assumes that the heir of Slytherin attacked his cat because of this. And who is the only student who knows his secret? Harry Potter. But why does this letter reveal this secret? And is this extended moment accurate to the book? Well, to answer the first question, Kwikspell is essentially a course on beginner magic for adult wizards who are struggling with spells, but it also doubles as a last-ditch effort for squibs who have lost all hope. Now, is this extended scene accurate? Not one bit. Well, except the Kwikspell letter part. Other than that letter though, the timeline, location, and even the way in which Harry finds the letter are entirely different in the book. We read that Harry finds the letter much later, not the first night in the castle and not in Snape's dungeon. He is coming in from Quidditch practice one day, soaked and muddy, and Filch sees him dripping mud on the floor and takes him to his office. While there, Filch gets distracted by Peeves, who knocked over a cabinet on the floor above them. Fun fact, by the way, this cabinet is the other vanishing cabinet, and Peeves knocking it over in this chapter is actually what broke it, making Draco have to mend it in the future. Anyway, while Filch runs out of his office to take care of Peeves, Harry is left there alone and sees only one other thing on Filch's desk: a shiny purple envelope. So he snoops around and reads it, finding out that it's a Kwikspell letter. Filch walks back in as Harry is reading it, and he is so embarrassed and flustered that he lets Harry go without punishing him for the mud incident. And that's what really happens in the book. But I do appreciate the movie trying to give a nod to this detail from the original story. Next, extended scene number 6 brings us to the Great Hall as Colin Creevey introduces himself to Harry. In this scene, we just get lots of extra talking from Colin, which includes him revealing that he is the first wizard in his family, meaning that he is Muggle-born. This is important, but first let's focus on some crucial differences between this scene and the book. In the book, this happens out in the courtyard, not in the Great Hall. Also, 2 key characters are not included in this extended version: Draco and Lockhart. Draco makes fun of Harry for taking photos like some celebrity, and surprisingly, Colin Creevey actually stands up to Draco and his goons, telling him that he's just jealous of Harry. As for Lockhart, he involves himself as he does in almost every chapter of the book and gives Harry some advice about being famous. But that's not the important part. Despite the movie getting this moment wrong in all the other ways, they included the most important detail, which is the fact that Colin Creevey is Muggle-born. Just like the Filch squib thing, the movie is showing that Harry knows about people's blood status. After all, Colin Creevey gets attacked, and in a later extended scene, we will see something similar, which further reinforces the rumor that Harry is the heir of Slytherin, as all these people start getting attacked right after they reveal their bloodline to Harry. Next, we've got extended scene number 7, which is one of our longer ones and is quite hilarious. In this scene, we see the start of Lockhart's first Defense Against the Dark Arts class, as he hands out a pop quiz to the students. Harry and Ron look at the paper and realize all the questions are about Lockhart, like what is his favorite color, what's your favorite part of his books, what are his dreams, etc. It is a very Lockhart thing to do, handing out a quiz completely about yourself on the first day of class. Anyway, everyone fails this quiz except one person. I'll give you one guess. Of course, Hermione, who has already read all of his works, knew all of the answers, which impresses Lockhart. This is almost completely accurate to the book. Other than the fact that it is obviously shorter than the more drawn-out book version of this event, they got this right, and I'm sad that it got cut. Out of all the scenes we're covering today, this one could probably have fit in pretty seamlessly and is completely book accurate, so it's a shame they removed it. Next, for extended scene number 8, we have a short bit of footage which is just extra flying during Harry's Quidditch match with the rogue Bludger. Nothing of note happens here, and I can't really say these extra seconds are inaccurate, because it's just Harry flying around. There is a lot more that happens during this Quidditch match itself, but I won't get into that today. If you're new here, then this is the perfect opportunity to let you know that I've been doing this series, Movies vs. Manuscripts, for all the Harry Potter movies, going scene by scene and page by page to find all the differences. So while I'm just covering the extended scenes in this video, I've actually already completed every scene in the original version of the Chamber of Secrets movie, which means that if you notice something I missed today, or if you're curious about the full details of a scene or chapter, then I've probably already covered it in an episode of Movies vs. Manuscripts. You can find the playlist with all the episodes of the series linked in the description, and I've just finished The Prisoner of Azkaban as well, which means that you've got 3 full movies of episodes you can binge right now. But anyway, with that being said, let's get back into this video and move on to extended scene number 9. This scene continues the theme I mentioned earlier of people revealing themselves to Harry, as we see Justin Finch-Fletchley introduce himself before their dueling club lesson. It's a very short moment, only a few seconds, but it includes Justin, you guessed it, telling Harry he's a Muggleborn. The content is accurate to the book, but the timeline and location are wrong. In the book, Justin gets grouped with Harry during their Mandrake Herbology class, and he tells him about his blood status then. This is also at the beginning of the school year, not later on during the time of the dueling club. Next, we have extended scene number 10, which is another simple moment that shows Harry sitting with Hedwig and contemplating his life. Nothing of note occurs during this scene, and as far as I'm aware, there isn't a direct correlation to an identical moment from the book. But the overall sentiment is there, as the book is quite clear about Harry really thinking about his life as he debates if he is the heir of Slytherin or not. While Harry's first year mostly has to do with external struggles, the second year presents a lot of internal dialogue, and this extended scene represents that well in my opinion. Next, moving on to extended scene number 11, we have another moment which is quite important, and that is when Harry overhears the Hufflepuffs talking about him. One of the boys, named Ernie Macmillan, talks to a group of students about how he advised Justin to lie low in their dorms because of the attacks. After all, he let it slip to Harry that he's a Muggleborn. One of the girls at the table, named Hannah Abbott, questions Ernie about why Harry would hurt Justin. After all, Harry seems so nice, and he's the reason Voldemort was defeated. But Ernie tells her that maybe that's why Voldemort went after him. Didn't want to compete with another dark wizard. The only difference between this scene and the book version is that Harry actually goes up to the gossiping table in the book. He goes straight up to Ernie and asks where Justin is, to the shock of all the students. Ernie nervously holds his ground and even tells Harry that his bloodline can be traced through 9 generations of purebloods, and Harry tells him that he doesn't care. This part of the book and movie just further reinforces the divide Harry is facing at school. Almost everyone believes him to be evil, and he starts believing it himself. So I wish they would have kept this scene, especially because Harry runs into Justin's body right after this in the movie, and this extended scene adds context to that moment. Next, we have extended scene number 12, which actually happens right after the gossiping scene with the Hufflepuffs. As Harry exits the library study room, he bumps into Hagrid, who is holding a dead rooster. This is mostly accurate, with only 2 small differences between this scene and the book. In the book, this actually happens during the day, not at night. Also, Harry leaves Hagrid to go get his Transfiguration books for his next class, but in the movie he just says he has to go study because it's nighttime and there are no classes happening. Other than those minor changes, this scene is accurate and important because the rooster dying is crucial to the plot. We learn later in the book that Ginny Weasley killed the roosters while under Tom Riddle's control. But why? Well, strangely enough, the crow of a rooster is fatal to a basilisk. So this brief and somewhat confusing moment is key to the story, but only makes sense if you have the context later on about Ginny being the one who killed the roosters. So that's probably why they cut it. Next, we have extended scene number 13, which brings us to a moment in which Fred and George are joking about Harry being the heir of Slytherin, and Harry gets upset and storms off. Not at Fred and George's jokes, but at the fact that other people actually think he's the heir. Then Harry says something a little too on the nose as he asks Ron and Hermione if someone can do something bad without knowing it, which is an obvious nod to Ginny Weasley's predicament. Hermione then reminds the boys that the Polyjuice Potion is almost ready, and they'll have answers soon, so Harry doesn't have to put up with this for much longer. All in all, this exact scene doesn't appear anywhere in the book and is a little unnecessary. I see where it comes from because Harry's feelings on this have been present in the entire story. Plus, it is a little timeline aid as Hermione says the potion is almost ready. But like I said, it's not necessary. Next, we come to extended scene number 14, which brings us to the aforementioned Polyjuice Potion. In this extra footage, we just see a few more seconds of Hermione and the boys looking at the disgusting goop that is their potion. Plus, Hermione shows them that she stole some Slytherin robes for them to wear once their bodies change and get bigger. This short extended moment is pretty accurate, specifically regarding the part about Hermione getting the Slytherin robes. That is pulled directly from the book. The only slight difference would be Hermione's attitude about this whole endeavor. In the book, she is frazzled and nervous, but in the movie, she seems almost too calm. Now moving on to extended scene number 15, we have another Polyjuice Potion related moment, which is only about 20 extra seconds in the movie. In this extended scene, we see Harry and Ron as Crabbe Goyle run into the goons as they're running back to the girls' bathroom. Their hair has started changing, but they still look like Crabbe Goyle mostly, and it's a funny moment of the four boys sort of having a standoff. This is completely wrong, and would never have happened in the book, but it's a funny extra scene. What really happens in the book is that Ron and Harry go back to the closet where they had stuffed Crabbe Goyle, and they drop off their shoes there before heading to the girls' bathroom. And we read that as they do that, they can hear the muffled pounding of the boys waking up inside. But no, they never run into them like this extended scene shows. Next, we've got extended scene number 16, which finally brings us to Tom Riddle. This scene occurs after Hermione has recovered from her cat condition, and the boys are visiting her in the hospital wing. Harry and Ron have brought the diary, and they're discussing the name on it, Tom Riddle. Ron suddenly remembers something about the name, saying that during his detention earlier in the year, he polished an award that was given to Tom Riddle for services to the school. He says it was 50 years old, and Hermione perks up, saying that the last time the chamber was opened was 50 years ago, so maybe this Tom Riddle knows something about it. But sadly for them, the diary is empty. This moment is accurate to the book, and it reaches back to a detention which the movie never showed. You know how Harry and Ron wrecked the car into the Whomping Willow? Well, Harry got detention with Lockhart, of course, but Ron got detention with Filch, polishing every award in the trophy room, which unfortunately for him happened soon after his slug spell. Therefore, he had to keep repolishing things after constantly barfing up slugs on them. I really do wish that part of the book was kept in, but oh well. At least I wish they would have added this extended scene to the theatrical cut, because it helps Ron look at least a little useful. Next, we have extended scene number 17, which is a very short scene right after Harry gets sucked into Tom Riddle's diary. In this scene, Harry rushes from downstairs up to the dorms and wakes up a sleeping Ron to tell him about the revelation that Hagrid opened the Chamber of Secrets. In the book, Harry does tell Ron, but technically Harry is in his bed when he uses the diary, and Ron comes into the dorm afterward, fully awake. So other than that small location change, the premise is the same. All in all though, it's an unnecessary addition. Second to last, we have extended scene number 18, which is another very short moment in which Ron and Harry get out the Invisibility Cloak. In the book, there is a specific moment in which Harry says, "I think it's time to get my dad's old cloak out again." So obviously, this scene is trying to showcase that moment, as the cloak hasn't made an appearance for the whole movie. But I understand why they cut this, because it's kind of a wasted few seconds of them literally just opening his trunk and pulling the cloak out. It's context, but pointless context. And finally, the last extended scene of the Chamber of Secrets brings us to the Forbidden Forest, as the boys make their way to Aragog. In the original version of the movie, the flying car just randomly appears and saves them before they're eaten by spiders. But in the book, they actually walk through the forest for a while and run into the wild car as they go. Then they keep pushing onward and meet Aragog. That is what this extended scene shows, as the boys hear strange noises in the woods and suddenly see the bright headlights of the car. Then, just like the book, they continue on. Although this isn't necessary, I do like this extended scene, and I think they could have spared the extra 44 seconds to include it. But perhaps they thought that would take away from the climactic moment of the wild car charging forth. Anyway, on that note, that finishes off our analysis of every extended edition scene in the Chamber of Secrets. Now that you've heard all 19 extended scenes, go down to the comments and let me know which one you wish they would have included in the movie. If you enjoyed, be sure to like and subscribe, and like I mentioned earlier, you can check out my entire Movies vs. Manuscripts series using the playlists on my channel. And finally, thank you to Jason, Jacob, Cody, and Joshua, as well as all my other Patreon supporters who make videos like this possible every month. Have a great week, and I'll see you in the next video.